Today on Notsam Wrestling, after an amazing year, we gaze into the crystal ball as we look at what 2024 will bring us in the worlds of WWE and AEW. This is Notsam Wrestling. Happy New Year! Welcome to 2024. Welcome to Notsam Wrestling. We have so much to talk about today with everything that is possible, everything that there's a chance of in this next 365 days. And I'll tell you right now, I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling optimistic, not just because of the world of professional wrestling and what we've got on our plate. The fact that I would argue that as we start 2024, there is more that is possible in the world of professional wrestling than at any time that I have ever watched the product. But with that said, the world of Notsam Wrestling just keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. 2024 is looking to be a fabulous year. Already so much in store, of course. We're not getting through the first month without a live show. January 26th, that's the Friday before the Royal Rumble in Tampa, Florida. You can go to Side Splitters Comedy Club at 5 p.m. on Friday, January 26th to see Notsam Wrestling live. I was already working over the holidays, starting to guest book. It is going to be a fabulous show. Go to notsamlive.com for tickets now. And here on this channel, later this week, we start 2024 with one of the biggest wrestling interviews that I've ever done in this studio. If you build it, they will come. Well, I built the Notsam studio, and boy, did they come. It's coming up this Wednesday, so make sure you're subscribed. But before we get there, you bet they did. Before we get there, we've got to talk about what we can expect in 2024. Of course, last week on the show, we went over 2023 and the year that was. A year ago, I did a prediction podcast for 2023. I don't even want to go back and watch it because I'm sure it was 100% incorrect, and I can almost guarantee you that my 2024 predictions podcast will be 100% incorrect. But if we're not here to speculate wildly, I don't know why we're here. So let's get into it. Here is, and we say predictions, right? But that word is used very loosely here. I would say this is one way that 2024 could go. And if you ask me today, at the time of this recording, is this a good idea? I would say yes. This is one, or several, I guess, because it's various ideas. But this is one group of things that you could do in 2024, both in WWE and in AEW. And when I think about 2024, I begin with the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Now, the Bloodline is at a key moment. Evolution is essential. It's also a mystery. It's essential for the Bloodline because people feel like they've seen so much of what the Bloodline has to offer. Well, I have a tremendous idea to evolve the Bloodline into 2024 and truly get to that next chapter where we need to go. First of all, I think the Jey Uso experiment, if you want to call it that, has been an unbelievable success. Jey Uso named my wrestler of 2023 last week. I do not see the Bloodline reforming. I do not see Jey Uso finding himself back into that structure because Jey Uso is a big enough star on his own. He's a great hero. He's an awesome, good guy wrestler. So I think when we look at the Bloodline, here's what we've got. And Roman Reigns in specific. And I know that there's speculation about whether Roman Reigns will even be around after WrestleMania, this and that we can't live in that world because we don't know. We can wildly speculate, but you can't tell me, well, you can't make any Roman Reigns predictions because he's going to be gone because you don't know if he's going to be gone. So let me speculate in the world in which I exist. So I think Roman Reigns obviously gets to WrestleMania as the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. I think that we'll find out very soon who he faces at the Royal Rumble, but he'll get through that challenge. The Elimination Chamber, I believe, will have another big Roman Reigns match on the way to WrestleMania. I think it's entirely possible. Here's prediction number one. I believe we're going to see The Rock wrestle in 2024. I think that the Rock is very aware of all things at all times. He's the all-knowing. He's the almighty. He's Dwayne The Rock Johnson. And I think that he realizes that now would be a great time to get involved with WWE because the product is hot. And why not be the biggest part of a hot product? And that's what would happen if The Rock came back. I think the idea of The Rock coming back and facing anyone besides Roman Reigns does not make a huge amount of sense. I think it's possible that The Rock wrestles at Elimination Chamber. I think it's possible that The Rock wrestles sometime after that. I don't have on my dance card The Rock wrestling at WrestleMania. I believe the WrestleMania main event will be Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. But I believe that main event will take place on night one. Now, if The Rock whenever The Rock is to wrestle Roman Reigns, that could happen at Elimination Chamber before WrestleMania. And I know you're saying, you think we're going to bring the Rock out for Elimination Chamber? Keep in mind, this is not your typical Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. This is not a B show by any stretch of the imagination. This is an international premium live event. We're going all the way to Australia to put this show on. This is a massive, massive show. So the idea that The Rock could come out for an Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, now would be the time to do it. If not, it could happen after. It could happen at a Money in the Bank. It could happen at a SummerSlam. Either way, the scenario is the same. Roman Reigns defeats The Rock. He does so with the help of Solo Sikoa. However, he didn't necessarily want Solo Sikoa's help. He beats The Rock. He looks triumphant, but he also is slightly, not majorly, but slightly annoyed that Solo Sikoa got involved. He wanted to do this one himself. We get to WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes does not win the Royal Rumble. He has to work harder to get to WrestleMania. He has to win an Elimination Chamber match to get to WrestleMania. He does win that Elimination Chamber match. He travels that long journey to get back to where he started a year ago. The main event of WrestleMania against Roman Reigns. The reason that I have Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns in the main event of night one, not night two of WrestleMania, is because this year at WrestleMania, Solo Sikoa tries to interfere again, but Cody catches him this time. Cody knocks Solo Sikoa off the apron, rendering him useless. And when he goes after Roman Reigns, Roman is still able to get the advantage of over Cody Rhodes. And without Solo Sikoa's successful interference, Roman Reigns is still able to beat Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes leaves the main event of night one of WrestleMania losing to Roman Reigns clean. And if you thought the look on Cody's face after night one or after night two of WrestleMania last year was hopeless, you have not seen the levels of despair that will be on the face of Cody Rhodes after WrestleMania night one. Almost to say, what's next? Roman leaves WrestleMania with a new feeling of triumph, that he has not only defeated Cody Rhodes twice, but now there's no question. He didn't do it with the help of the Bloodline. Now, some will say, well, Solo getting involved just distracted Cody Rhodes enough. That in and of itself was interference. And that's true, and that's what Solo may argue at some point. But in Roman's mind, he beat Cody Rhodes without any help from the Bloodline, and that's it. Now, the SmackDown after WrestleMania, Roman Reigns holds a meeting of the Bloodline. And what he does is he sends Jimmy Uso home. Jimmy Uso is, for all intents and purposes, out of the Bloodline, but it's not in a hostile way. It's just in a, Jimmy, it's time for you to go home. It's time for you to go visit the elders. That's what he says to Jimmy Uso. The problem with Jimmy Uso is that Jimmy went to WrestleMania and he faced off against Jey Uso. Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso finally goes down at WrestleMania. Jey Uso beats his brother Jimmy without question. And when we get to SmackDown, with Roman still the undisputed Universal Champion, Jimmy Uso is sent home to visit the elders. Because in the state that he's in, he's no longer of value to the bloodline. Jimmy disappears for the while. And as we go forward, Roman Reigns makes it clear to Solo Sikoa and the Wise Man that there are members of the SmackDown roster that need to be reminded of the fact that he's the head of the table. There are members of the SmackDown roster that need to be reminded of the reasons that he's in the position that he's in. And Roman needs to start doing it alone. First, Roman tells Solo not to get involved. And this goes back to the match with The Rock, where Roman didn't want Solo involved, but Solo got involved. Then he starts telling him, you know what, stay backstage. And Roman has, post-WrestleMania, a couple. It's not going to be a lot of matches. It's never going to be a lot of matches with Roman Reigns. But the matches that Roman does have post-WrestleMania, with that title on the line, Roman is going to do by himself. Roman is going to be able to beat AJ Styles without Paul Heyman or Solo Sikoa at ringside. Roman is going to be able to beat LA Knight or whoever else it is without Solo Sikoa or Paul Heyman at ringside. Also, these matches are going to be fantastic matches. People are going to be reminded of what Roman Reigns is truly capable of. This is going to bring us all to the ultimate test at the Bash in Berlin, where the main event is title for title. Gunther, earlier in the year, defeated Brock Lesnar in an Intercontinental Championship match at WrestleMania 40. Gunther has been unstoppable since then. And we get to the Bash in Berlin, and it's Gunther and Roman title for title. Roman tells Solo and Paul, this is one of those. This is one of those that I need to do on my own. And Solo and Paul kind of look at each other like, you got to be nuts. Are you crazy? I don't think this is a good idea at all. And we get to the Bash in Berlin, and we see Roman and Gunther just unload on each other. It takes you back to WrestleMania 31, the original WrestleMania 31 match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, when these two behemoths were just trying to strike each other down in the realest way possible. That's what we get at Bash in Berlin with Gunther and Roman Reigns. At the end of the match, Solo Sikoa comes out, ready to interfere on Roman's behalf. And Roman sends him away. He says, I don't want you. Get out of here. Solo says, okay. And as he's leaving, Gunther is able to take advantage of Roman Reigns and defeat the tribal chief. Gunther stands victorious, holding the Universal Championship and the Intercontinental Championship. Gunther in Berlin has defeated Roman Reigns and stopped Roman within weeks of extending his title run beyond what Hulk Hogan was able to do as champion. The record that could never be beaten isn't beaten. And Gunther walks out victoriously. As Solo looks at Roman Reigns, Roman looks up at Solo. And Solo does to Roman exactly what he did to John Cena. Solo puts Roman Reigns down. And Paul Heyman comes out and he looks at Solo as if he's about to say, stop, Solo, stop. And he gets that evil grin. He smiles and he nods. And Solo hits one more Samoan spike and takes out Roman Reigns, seemingly for good. Solo comes off of this, ready to start a rivalry with Gunther. Gunther sacrifices the Intercontinental Championship as the Ultimate Warrior did at WrestleMania 6. A tournament is started coming off of Bash in Berlin, going into the fall to determine a new Intercontinental Champion. Solo Sikoa starts chasing Gunther, and Jimmy Uso is brought back to join with Solo and Paul Heyman as Paul Heyman leads the new tribal chief Solo Sikoa with Jimmy Uso, his brother, by his side. And they start by going after Gunther. Roman Reigns is out of action for the rest of the year. Of course, when Roman finally does come back in 2025, a babyface Roman Reigns has fully been established. And Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso have been running roughshod. First going after Gunther, not taking the title off of him, and then focusing on Jey Uso, who has risen to unprecedented heights, because not only does Jey Uso beat Jimmy Uso at WrestleMania, but Jey Uso wins the Money in the Bank ladder match in 2024. 2023 was the year that we raised Jey Uso's stock, and 2024 is the year that we begin to cash out on it, baby. A big WrestleMania victory and winning the Money in the Bank briefcase at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view lead to Jey Uso looking like the future until the new Bloodline and Solo Sikoa get their hands on him, possibly after the draft. We could see Solo being drafted over to Raw. We could see Jey being drafted over to SmackDown. And we see that ignited once again. This is more between Solo and Jey Uso now. You're probably wondering, what of Cody Rhodes? How could you just sit there and say Cody Rhodes just loses at WrestleMania after all this? Cody Rhodes just loses clean to Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and that's the end? No. That's not the end. It's the beginning, you see. Because after losing to Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes explains that he's going to need to figure some things out. And Cody says that he realizes now that as good as things have been for the last 2 years in the WWE, that he may have made some mistakes. He's had some great accomplishments. He's had some incredible matches. A War Games victory, a Tag Team Championship victory, a Royal Rumble victory, an Elimination Chamber victory. But for some reason, he can't finish the story. And he's going to need to go home and figure that out. So as Cody drifts away, and we're left to wonder, what's next for Cody Rhodes? We head to night 2 of WrestleMania. In the main event, CM Punk is facing Seth Rollins. CM Punk wins the Royal Rumble, last eliminating Cody Rhodes. And CM Punk goes to Philadelphia. And on night 2 of WrestleMania, Punk and Seth Rollins, after an amazing buildup, are face to face. And after all the drama that only 2 nights of WrestleMania can bring, it's heightened. CM Punk has been in Orlando for the last several months, building that skill set, and we see a great CM Punk at WrestleMania. And he's just great enough that on that night, CM Punk is able to be the one to finally defeat Seth Rollins. Yes, Roman Reigns retains his title on night 1 of WrestleMania, but on night 2, it's CM Punk who is able to dethrone Seth Rollins, and CM Punk becomes the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Now, Raw after WrestleMania, the Cody Rhodes segment that we get is in the 9 o'clock hour. That's the top of the 9 o'clock, the shift from 8 to 9. Cody Rhodes is in the ring, and he's letting people know he's got to go home for a while. The 8 o'clock segment is CM Punk coming to the ring with the WWE World Heavyweight Championship on his shoulder. Seth Rollins interrupts a promo where CM Punk is basically explaining to the audience that he can't believe where he's at. He never thought he would be here, but God, does it feel good to be there. Seth Rollins comes out, and after all the buildup, and after all the threats, and after all the I don't want you here, old Philly Phil has done more than just won the World Heavyweight title at WrestleMania. He has proven to Seth Rollins that he's there for the right reasons, that he belongs there, and that he is the right man to hold the World Heavyweight title. And Seth Rollins shakes that man's hand, says, Punk, we're never going to line up on everything exactly the same. And I'm never going to approve of the way you behaved coming off of your WWE run. But as I look at you here today, I know that you're here for the right reasons, and you are the World Heavyweight Champion. And CM Punk says, well, Seth, you were the fightingest champion that I've ever seen. Seth, you defined what this title is, and this title isn't designed to be defended every 3 months. This title is designed to be defended all the time. And a lot of people are worried that now that I'm back, I'm not going to be wrestling at every pay-per-view. I'm not going to be wrestling on every Raw. And this title is going to disappear. Seth, this title is not going to disappear. And I want to offer you a rematch tonight. Woo! The crowd goes wild. They can't believe it. And Seth accepts. And Seth and Punk, who beat each other down unmercifully the night before, agree that the main event of Monday Night Raw, the Raw after WrestleMania, will be a rematch for the World Heavyweight Championship, Seth Rollins versus CM Punk, and the two go to the ring, and Philadelphia can't believe how lucky they are to get this match not once but twice. And the match goes on for 1-2 segments. People are loving it. And just as the match reaches a heightened point of drama, just as you think that both Punk and Rollins have given everything that they possibly can after tearing the house down in a stadium the night before, they're now in an arena doing the same thing. And here comes Damian Priest. Damian Priest comes out, lays out Seth Rollins, lays out CM Punk, hands over his briefcase. 1, 2, 3. Damian Priest pins CM Punk. And Damian Priest, the night after CM Punk has beaten Seth Rollins, becomes the World Heavyweight Champion. Now, this is going to send Seth Rollins on a mission to get that title back from Damian Priest. So now we're looking at Rollins chasing Damian Priest. So where does Punk go? Well, Punk comes out a couple of weeks later and says, I had to go home. I had to lick some wounds. I had to eat a few slices of humble pie. And I had to look at what was in front of me. And I'm going to tell you right now, Damian Priest, you're going to get what's coming to you. You didn't beat anybody. But my focus is elsewhere right now. Because since I've been gone, there's been somebody that is holding the WWE hostage. And I don't know how I'm going to get there. But I need to get from this red show to that blue show. Because Roman Reigns, I'm coming for you. And everybody freaks out. And Punk drops the microphone when a gentleman with jet black hair shows up to take out CM Punk. Cody Rhodes is back without the bleach blonde and beats the you-know-what out of CM Punk. You're not going to take this from me. You're not going to take this from me. Cody stops CM Punk in his tracks, and that episode of Raw goes off the air with the vision of a dark-haired Cody Rhodes looking down on Punk saying, not this time, Phil, not this time. And we start this story of Cody Rhodes making it clear that CM Punk has over the last several years taken everything from Cody. Cody goes back to that original AEW promo. And he goes back and he repeats some of it. He doesn't say it, but he repeats a lot of it. He goes, CM Punk, you said everybody gives you credit for changing the industry, Punk. You take credit for changing the industry. See, that's Cody's problem. It's not that everybody gives Punk credit. It's that Punk accepts it. Punk, you think that you changed the industry by words that you spoke. But history is not changed by words spoken. History is changed by actions taken. And CM Punk, I didn't talk about the way I wanted to change this industry. I did it. I left here with far less perceived value than you had, Punk. I didn't leave here a former world champion. I left here somebody that would never get the opportunity to be a world champion. And what did I do? I revolutionized the way people from here do their thing outside of here. By going on the independents. By going to Japan. By starting a promotion that gave WWE its first sniff of competition in 20 years. And then when I came back here, I became the biggest superstar in the company. Until you showed up, Punk. You showed up to the house that I built and acted like it was yours. You moved in as if you owned it. So I left. And I came here to finish my story. And what did you do? You decided to take my story again. You went to WrestleMania and you told everybody you were going to finish your story. You took my second Royal Rumble from me. You took my WrestleMania Night 2 main event from me. You took my world title win from me. And now, you think you're the one that's going to take down Roman Reigns? It's never going to happen. Because I'm going to take you down. Everything that everybody's ever said about you is true. And I'm going to stop it all from happening. And Cody Rhodes, the villain that he is now, goes toe-to-toe. And that's the program that takes us into post-WrestleMania is Punk versus Cody. Punk is the babyface. Cody is the heel. A heel Cody is able to defeat CM Punk and then starts going after Jey Uso. Why? Because Jey Uso has never shown an ounce of gratitude for the fact that Cody Rhodes is the one that made him. Jey Uso acts like it's still Roman that brought him to the top, when it was Cody that allowed him to separate from the bloodline. He gets no credit for it. None. Cody is just out here changing lives. And nobody is crediting this guy for it. So coming off of WrestleMania, we have a heel Cody going after Punk. We then have a heel Cody going after Jey Uso, who's got the Money in the Bank briefcase, and that drives Cody Rhodes crazy. Because now Jey is going to try to steal that moment that Cody never got. And then, as Gunther has now become, without changing his character at all, one of the most beloved figures in the WWE. He's disbanded Imperium. He doesn't have those two around him anymore. He is, by default, a babyface. And after going through CM Punk and Jey Uso, a villainous Cody Rhodes goes after Gunther. And this time, he's not going to allow anybody to stop him from finishing his story. It drives him insane. That is Cody's 2024 to me. I don't know. We'll see. I think Jade Cargill will be a big superstar in 2024, and it remains to be seen. You know, it's hard to figure out exactly what's going to happen with Jade Cargill because we don't know what she's going to look like, how she's going to be presented. We don't know how the audience is going to respond to her. What I do think is WWE is going to do what WWE does, and they're going to give her every reason in the world to succeed. And it should work, especially given what WWE is now. I think that Jade Cargill will have a showcase performance in the Royal Rumble. I think that will be Jade Cargill's spot. I don't know that she'll win the Royal Rumble. I have CM Punk winning the men's Royal Rumble. And I don't know that they'll have Jade Cargill and CM Punk both winning Royal Rumbles. Because that feels, number one, it feels similar. It's two similar stories. So I don't know that she'll actually win the Royal Rumble. But I do think that she'll go to WrestleMania. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly. If it's up to me, I have Bayley winning the Women's Royal Rumble match. I have Bayley winning the Women's Royal Rumble match. I have Damage Control convinced that she's going to go after Rhea Ripley. And then I have Bayley turning babyface, I think, and going after Io Sky. I think that unless Io, it doesn't really matter who's the heel and the babyface, to tell you the truth. I have Bayley separating from Damage Control, and after winning the Royal Rumble, going after Io Sky and having that be your WrestleMania match due to the Royal Rumble, Bayley versus Io for the SmackDown Women's Championship. And then over on the Raw side, I do think that you've got to get to Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley. I think that kind of has to be your WrestleMania match, you know? I mean, because if Jade Cargill is going to have a WrestleMania match, it should be a big WrestleMania match. And it's tough to imagine that she'd be the villain, right? Like, Charlotte won't be at WrestleMania due to injury. You could do Jade versus Becky Lynch, but it's hard to imagine that Jade would be a good guy against Becky Lynch. Like, who's not going to cheer Becky? You could do Jade versus Bianca, but again, that would be turning Bianca heel. And is now the time for Bianca to lose a match to Jade Cargill? I don't think so. I feel like the inevitable Jade Cargill-Bianca Belair match is after Jade has garnered some credibility. Once Jade Cargill has really risen to the occasion and becomes this force that you don't know who's going to be able to beat, that's when you pull the trigger and finally do Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill. To me, I feel like Rhea Ripley's biggest challenge should be built as Jade Cargill. And either she wins the chamber or gets to WrestleMania some other way. You know, because don't forget, sometimes these chamber matches end up being championship matches as opposed to championship contender matches. But with a champion on each brand, the Royal Rumble is one way to get to WrestleMania. It's not the only way to get to WrestleMania. So I would have Jade Cargill versus Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania, but not have I would have Jade Cargill showcase in the Royal Rumble, the way Edge did when he returned, the way Kane and Diesel and those guys always did. You don't have to win. The beauty of the Royal Rumble is you can have a showcase performance without actually winning the match. And that's what I see for Jade Cargill. Now, does she beat Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania? I'm not ready to say that one way or the other yet. I'm not ready to sit here and tell you that Jade Cargill should win. And I feel like WWE should not be making that plan. I think that Jade Cargill, we should look at what the feeling is after the Royal Rumble. We should look at what the feeling is having Jade on TV between the Royal Rumble and the Elimination Chamber. Feel the feelings of Jade at the Elimination Chamber Premium Live event. And then post Elimination Chamber, going into March, that's when you make the decision, are we going to put the title on Jade or not? Because what you don't want to do is do it too early. That wouldn't do Rhea or Jade any favors whatsoever. And yeah, that's kind of where I see things going for Jade. I mean, I don't think when I look at the big picture of American mainstream professional wrestling, two big organizations, WWE, AEW. I think that we'll see nothing's going to match WWE. I think WWE is going to have another record-breaking year. WWE is running on all cylinders right now. The creative refreshing is something that people have been waiting for an extremely long time. Their ability to monetize, their ability to get new eyeballs on the product, they're operating on a different level than they ever have before. And I think that that's only going to continue. We can see their ability to make stars is something we haven't seen in a very long time. However, I do think that AEW will start to accumulate little victories. I think that over the past, few months, the latter half of 2023, the victories have been very heavy on WWE's side. Not as much. I would say post-Wembley, WWE has been chalking up nothing but W's. And I think AEW will start to get some of those W's back. Not enough that WWE is necessarily hurt, quote unquote, by it, but enough that AEW will benefit from it. And as wrestling fans, that's what we want. We want W's that benefit companies. We want two companies to both be doing as good as possible, because only good results will come of that. Even if you don't watch all the shows, that's fine. But only good results industry-wise come of two organizations being healthy. I think that what you'll see with AEW, I think, is people going over there that you might not expect. And I think that is because there are superstars who have accomplished so much in WWE that they'll know that, at least for the time being right now, AEW is a place that will pay wrestlers a lot of money and kind of let certain wrestlers do whatever they want. There are a lot of WWE superstars that, should they allow their contracts to expire, or should WWE, by the way, WWE may make that choice. We don't need to keep everybody that we've got. Or the people there might go, I'm ready to try something new. And I think that you'll see that, not with everybody by any stretch, but I think there are a handful of people that you will see, a small handful, make that choice to go over to AEW and to do things, frankly, like Christian and Adam Copeland are doing. Where it's like, yep, we can make money, we can tell the stories that we want to tell, and we can have fun in the matches. And that's it. Let's not overthink this. I think the first superstar that you'll probably see that happen with, and there are already rumors out there, so it's not like I'm going out on a limb here, is Mercedes Money. I think, first of all, what has to happen in AEW is, if Mercedes shows up in AEW, we've got to figure out how to pronounce her last name. Because when you look at it on paper, everybody says Mercedes Moné. But then when she comes out, she goes, Money. Is it Mercedes Money or Mercedes Moné? I have no idea. And I'm a fan. So I think that's something that, wherever she pops up, if she goes to WWE, she'll probably go back to being Sasha Banks. But if she goes to AEW, I think a concerted effort needs to be made. You have to say her name over and over and over and over again. You need to have Excalibur yelling, "It's money time!" Whatever you have to do to get the pronunciation right of that name. Because right now, the whole wrestling world is lost on it. But I think that will be looked at as a win. That choice was made by that superstar, or however it was done. Maybe, organization, however it was done. Instead of going back to WWE, she's in AEW. And people will go, oh, that's interesting. That's a win for AEW. And if she's able to succeed over there, then I think other people will see that. The same way Cody coming to WWE changed everything. Because people saw Cody succeeding in WWE and what that did for him. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm ready to do that. I'm not happy with where I'm at now. I'm ready to do that over there. If we can see people going over there, then the other side, it'll go back and forth, and we'll just see people all telling the stories that they want to tell, all prospering, all doing great, and just more good, fun wrestling stuff for us to watch. And I think that's what we're going to get on the AEW side. I think Samoa Joe being the world champion in AEW is an extremely good thing for that organization. And I think under Samoa Joe, you may see a lot less drama. I don't think that you'll see anybody subtweeting about Samoa Joe. I don't think that you'll see anybody yelling into cameras and going into business for themselves about Samoa Joe. I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think anybody will be going to press conferences and taking shots at Samoa Joe. That's just that ain't going down with Samoa Joe. And I think the fact that you have a champion now that will be able to command the attention and make sure that the story that is being told is about the story happening in the ring that we're trying to get people to pay for tickets and pay-per-views to see is the one that everybody's talking about is going to be an incredibly good thing for that organization. I think Eddie Kingston is right there too, right? Eddie Kingston being the Continental Champion. I would love to see AEW either drop some of their titles or make certain titles exclusive to certain shows. And I've said this before. If you're going to have a trios title and a tag team title, you don't have to say this title is now exclusive to, but just through action, allow people to realize the trios title gets defended on Collision, the tag team title gets defended on Dynamite, or vice versa. The TBS title gets defended on TBS. The TNT title gets defended on TNT. Ring of Honor titles are not popping up all over AEW TV. And then what is there? The International Championship? I don't know. But figure out a real meaning for a lot of these titles. I would like to see Swerve. Samoa Joe, I see being champion for about at least 6 months. I see Samoa Joe having a nice run, couple of pay-per-views under his belt, couple of title defenses, and I see Swerve being forced to wait longer. Swerve went to the press conference after AEW's World's End pay-per-view, and he is talking about how it was a waste of his time having to wrestle Dustin Rhodes, and I loved that from Swerve, and that's not because I'm not a Dustin Rhodes fan. I mean, I literally have a ring-worn Goldust outfit in my collection. I love Goldust. I love Dustin Rhodes. But the idea that we're seeing a Swerve now get frustrated over the fact that the inevitable is not being handed to him is interesting. I like that. I don't know if it'll happen because I could easily see, because when you look at what's in front of us, right? Adam Cole is revealed as the devil. And, the Kingdom and Wardlow and Roderick Strong, but I guess Roderick Strong is part of the Kingdom, are the devil's henchmen, which is not, the least predictable thing in the world. I'll just put it that way. I mean, yeah, that's right. Not the least predictable thing in the world. I don't know if they're going to start a rivalry with MJF, although, I don't know if MJF is going away for a while. I don't know who's next for Samoa Joe is the point, because even if MJF isn't going away, his beef now is with Adam Cole and the Devil's Triangle. It's not it's not with Joe. So part of me wonders if they're going to go straight to Swerve Joe, which I would not be in favor of. I would love to see Swerve continue to get frustrated. Swerve continue to get angry over the fact that he's not getting the opportunity. Have the audience get angry for him. Have the audience be clamoring to finally see that. And then when we get to that main event in June, July, and we're finally seeing Swerve and Samoa Joe touch for the first time, that's when we have the opportunity to really do a title switch that matters. That's when we have the opportunity to crown Swerve. Because if you do it in June or July, you also know the winner of this gets to take the title into Wembley. Because then you can go into Wembley with the rematch. you can go into Wembley with Swerve walking into Wembley Stadium, the AEW champion, and Samoa Joe getting his rematch in front of 80,000 people. And can Swerve do it twice? That's what I would like to see from Swerve in AEW. And, under Samoa Joe, I think, as well as with the success of the Continental Classic, I do think that and hope that AEW will refocus to a more sports-based show. Ultimately, that's the why competing companies have been able to survive. Like Eric Bischoff says, there's better than, there's less than, there's different from. And when people talk about, who are my age or older, talk about growing up, when the WWF first started, you were, and this is like the idea that tribalism is new. Tribalism is not new. If you were growing up in the Attitude Era, you remember the bitter disputes between Nitro and Raw, WCW, WWF. If you grew up in the 80s, you were a Territories, Jim Crockett, NWA, Ric Flair person, or you were a Sports Entertainment, Vince McMahon, Hulk Hogan, New York, WWF person. We just didn't have Twitter, so it wasn't in our faces all the time. But the reason, when people talk about that rivalry between the NWA and the WWF, you get a presentation that was sports entertainment, Saturday morning cartoon, larger than life, superheroes versus sports-based, reality-based, dudes in trunks going 45 minutes and fighting with everything that they had. I think that might be what AEW needs to tap into. Except, a modernized version of it. And when you have guys like Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston, Samoa Joe, even young guys, Daniel Garcia, those guys, you can tap into that. I mean, you can also take what WWE does so well and make it your thing. I thought that the Adam Copeland Christian match at World's End was match of the night by a mile. They told an amazing story in that match, and I felt the audience. I was there in Long Island, and I felt the audience sort of go along with that story, even people that weren't necessarily sold on the Christian Copeland story going in. By the time that match happened, and by the time Copeland did that spot off the ledge up in the bleachers in the Nassau Coliseum, by the time that happened, everybody was on board with the story that was told in that match. And I think you can still do that with a physical based company. You could still, look at the Continental Classic. Everybody's talking about the fact that it was like clean wrestling, just having good matches. But ultimately, the story that was told throughout that whole Continental Classic was Eddie Kingston, the king of the bums, the ultimate underdog, the guy that nobody had winning that thing, putting everything on the line, everything that he's ever worked for to finally be triumphant. There was a story being told. And I think if you can tell simple stories through physical action, that, I think, is where a company like AEW is going to prosper. On the topic of Adam Copeland, I see two big stories that I'd like to see from Adam Copeland in AEW. Number one, in 2024, I think that there is a potential for a true highlight of Adam Copeland's run in AEW to be a storyline with MJF. I don't think it can happen immediately. I think that MJF has some stuff to deal with Adam Cole and the Devil's Babies. I think that Adam Copeland still is in the middle of this Christian thing, and then who knows? Who knows who's after Christian? You don't have to do it right away. But maybe around a year from now, around the end of the year next year, you could really have some, and you could do it either way. I think that MJF is the type of guy where Edge could Adam Copeland, could tap into being a villain again and go after MJF in a very real way. You haven't earned this. You're not as good as you think you are. You know nothing. Or you could have Max go back to being a villain and say, you're washed up. You're trying to take the spotlight from us. However you want to do it. There's multiple ways to tell an extremely compelling story. And Adam and Max are two people highly capable of doing that. The other story with Adam Copeland that I believe we should see in AEW in 2024, and if I've got anyone's ear in AEW, this is the one that I'm asking for. If you want AEW to get victories, and if you want to talk about free agents and buzz, I think AEW should be the organization that picks up Matt Cardona. And I think Matt Cardona comes to AEW to take out Adam Copeland. I think that this was a conversation that I had with Matt Cardona in the Notsam studio about how much I would love it if Edge was doing a farewell promo in the WWE, and out of nowhere, it's not time to retire yet, because Matt Cardona shows up and delivers the broski boot. I think Matt Cardona has clearly proven what he's capable of. And I think at this point, and I hate to say this, because I don't want to give this guy more credit. I don't want to blow Matt Cardona's head up any more than it's already blown up. But let's face it, it's time that there were a bidding war for Matt Cardona, of all people. And I think it would be a huge victory if AEW were to get this guy. Let him come in. Let him be Matt Cardona. Let him flex the creative muscle that he has been flexing across the independents for the last couple of years, changing everything, by the way. And let Matt Cardona bring that brand into All Elite Wrestling and be the villain to Adam Copeland and go full circle, where an Edge head finally meets Edge, because it's time for Matt Cardona to take his spot. Because in 2024, Matt Cardona says, I'm a bigger deal than Adam Copeland. And this is the guy that's getting the big money contracts? Step aside, Copeland. You opened the door for me, but you never got out of the doorway. And now I got to do death matches in bingo halls because you're taking up all the air here? No. And then Copeland comes up and he goes, the only reason I'm still in this doorway is because you haven't been able to kick me out of it. Nobody stepped aside for me. I fought my way through. That's something you haven't done. And that's something you can't do from bingo halls. Come on. Copeland Cardona in 2024 in an AEW ring, it's money to me. It spells money. I think at WrestleMania, we're looking at LA Knight getting a big victory. And this is, I think, where we're going to take it, right? Because I don't think that LA Knight is going to be the one to beat Roman Reigns. I don't think LA Knight is going to be the one to beat Gunther. I don't think LA Knight's going to beat Seth Rollins. I don't think LA Knight's going to beat CM Punk. I don't think LA Knight's going to beat Cody Rhodes. I do think LA Knight is going to be the one to beat Logan Paul. Not many people have beaten Logan Paul. Rollins, Reigns. Knight. Have Logan Paul defeat... What are they? I think it's Logan Paul and it's a prediction show, right? Logan Paul defeats Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble. Maybe there's a rematch at Elimination Chamber. Maybe there's another opponent. Maybe Andrade comes back and takes on Logan Paul at the Elimination Chamber, and Logan Paul beats him too. The point is that Logan Paul has at least one, if not two, successful title defenses under his belt as he goes into WrestleMania, and LA Knight gets that big moment. Night one, the big male undercard moment goes to Jey Uso beating Jimmy Uso. Night two, the big male undercard moment goes to LA Knight winning the title from Logan Paul. I think that we will see John Cena in the WWE once again. I don't think John Cena is going to let a year go by that he's not wrestling. I don't know if he's going to go on another 2-month run, but I believe that in 2024, John Cena will come back, and just as this year, his purpose was to try to get Austin Theory over at WrestleMania and to try to get both LA Knight and Solo Sikoa over in his fall run. I think that John Cena will be back this time, whether it's in a tag team or whether it's in a match, to get Carmelo Hayes over. I think years ago, John Cena did what he did for Kevin Owens. And we looked at Kevin Owens and Carmelo Hayes as if Kevin Owens was taking on the John Cena role. But instead, I think that Carmelo Hayes' first big kind of moment on the main roster, the one where it's going to be, okay, this was the first step that put him on the road to where he would eventually go, is going to be in 2024 when John Cena does whatever John Cena does to give Carmelo Hayes that John Cena rub. And finally, here's one for you. I think in 2024, whether it's to benefit from the tape library, whether it's to benefit from talent, I believe that in 2024, TNA and WWE will develop a partnership. I believe that WWE is not going to buy TNA. TNA is still going to exist, but I believe a strategic partnership will be established between WWE and TNA. And it will see TNA as well as NXT be used as a developmental system. Maybe TNA becomes kind of a finishing school after NXT. But I also think that means that we'll see some of the bigger stars. Maybe we'll see an AJ Styles pop up in TNA again. Maybe we'll see some of the other people that have come. Maybe we'll see LA Knight pop up in TNA again. Who knows? But as TNA rebrands, I do believe that sometime in 2024, we could very well see a strategic partnership exist between WWE and TNA. All right, we didn't do it last week, but we like to do it every week. The emails. If you want to email the show, email us, notsamwrestling@gmail.com. Our email address is notsamwrestling@gmail.com. I haven't looked at these emails yet, so I don't know if you guys are going to be sending me your 2024 predictions or what. I hope you are, because it would go along very nicely with the show. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, which if you're not, you should be, youtube.com/notsamwrestling. Subscribe to the channel. We're going to have an incredible interview posted on Wednesday, but you'd also see the new logo shining behind me. And if you don't think that 2024 is going to start with a merch drop, you don't know the last professional broadcaster, Sam Roberts. Let's go to the emails. notsamwrestling@gmail.com. notsamwrestling@gmail.com. This is coming from Gran. Greetings and Happy New Year, Sam, from Greece. Chiming in from Greece, some predictions for 2024. Okay, this is what we're looking for. This is what Gran says. Damian Priest cashes in on Seth at WrestleMania Night 1 after Seth defeats Punk. I like my booking much better. Cody versus Solo main event Backlash, in which Jimmy cost Solo the match. I would very much depend on what you have happening at WrestleMania 40, because we've already seen Cody versus Solo right before last year's WrestleMania. We already know Cody can beat Solo. WrestleMania 40 will be considered by many as the best of all time at the end of the day. We'll see. We'll see. Right now, on that, WrestleMania 38 made the short list of best WrestleManias ever. WrestleMania 39 was a very good WrestleMania, but I don't know if it makes the short list of best WrestleManias ever. 17, I don't know. I've done a WrestleMania ranking. It might be time to do another WrestleMania ranking this year, though. Big E gets cleared in return. Okay, I have to talk to the doctor about that. Nick Nemeth joins AEW alongside Matt Cardona. They feud with Edge and Christian. I don't love that. I love Nick Nemeth joining AEW. Obviously, I love Matt Cardona joining AEW as I predicted it. I don't see Copeland and Christian teaming, and I don't like, because that's too much Dolph Ziggler and Zack Ryder versus Edge and Christian, which is like, I don't know. It feels like we need fresh stories for all those people. Santos has a breakout year and wins Money in the Bank. It's possible. I wouldn't mind, but I think Jey Uso is going to have that. Pete Dunne ends Gunther's record-breaking reign, not Butch. Well, I don't know why they would take Butch's name away at this point, and I do not see that. It makes no sense to me as him breaking Gunther's reign, as he has not been put in a position to be that guy. That's crazy. The Four Horsewomen team together again in main event Survivor Series War Games. I would love to see it. I have Mercedes going to AEW, but if she's not, then I would love to see her back as Sasha. Oh, Four Horsemen War Games would be unbelievable. I would love to see it, dude. Austin writes in, Happy New Year to you and your family. Hope you had a good Christmas. Appreciate that. There's two things from the Bloodline story this year that I still don't understand and was hoping maybe you could help me out in case I missed something. Number one, why did Jimmy go back to the Bloodline when he was the initial one to get the Usos to leave? I think because Jimmy lost his confidence and realized he couldn't beat them. But that's just my interpretation of it. It was never fully explained. And number two, what was the deal that Paul Heyman and Rhea Ripley made a few months ago? I don't recall this ever playing out, but maybe I just missed it. Huh. Well, I mean, that was the Bloodline and the Judgment Day working together, right? I think that was just when they were working together on SmackDown. I don't think it went beyond that. Before, like in September or October. Oliver writes in, Sam, I've been seeing a lot of people saying that the turn, this is the Adam Cole turn, was predictable, dragged out, and boring. While I know it's not everyone's opinion, it does seem pretty common. However, I feel like this turn was incredible. You're talking about Adam Cole being revealed as the devil? I don't know, man. For me, a high schooler, I got into wrestling because my dad was watching AEW and MJF and Adam Cole were in tag tournament together. Okay, I love where you're going with this. Within a month, I was buying shirts and posters with the money I had saved. The story had me buy my first pay-per-view, that being All In. I've been more invested in this story than almost anything. I believe it. Especially going into All In. Because I thought everything going into All In and the main event of All In was like perfect. I'm with you. Even though I thought a turn could happen at World's End, I told myself it wouldn't. I genuinely yelped when I saw Adam in the chair. I know this story hasn't been for everyone, but I think people forget that there are plenty of fans who enjoyed this story, and that just because something might be predictable doesn't mean it's not interesting and exciting. I appreciate that sentiment, Oliver, and I'm glad you wrote in, because I think that there are people out there that share your opinion, and I think that it's a valid opinion. I think that the story started hot. Adam Cole got injured, and it messed things up. And I think that people hoped that in the meantime, because you're talking about something that, for all intents and purposes, peaked in August. And we've now gone September, October, November, and December. We've now gone 4 months. And it's like, it doesn't feel like anything happened in those 4 months. And that's what you wanted. I feel like if Britt Baker had been revealed as the devil, you could have taken one step further to have Adam Cole. It's not sure whether Adam Cole, like, does MJF now trust Adam Cole because Britt Baker is his wife? If it's Britt Baker with the Kingdom, Roderick Strong, and Wardlow, well, now, where does Adam Cole stand? And you could go a little bit further, but this was just like, it's one of those things that when you wait 4 months and everybody's going, well, obviously it could be Adam Cole. You're almost like, oh, that's just what it is. There's nothing beyond. Okay. But I appreciate you, man. Kanye writes in, I was thinking about Rule 3, everything counts. And I realized Gunther has to be losing to Chad Gable, because I don't know if you remember, but right after the Raw where Gunther had retained the championship, Chad was backstage and cut a promo about how Gunther beat him in his hometown and taunted his kids, and that he will come back for Gunther. Like you said, everything counts. So it has to be Gable. Well, it doesn't mean he has to beat him. And it should happen before Bash in Berlin, because that show is when I think Gunther should win the World Heavyweight Championship. Well, who does he beat to win the World Heavyweight Championship? And how do you rectify the fact that Chad Gable would then hold a victory over the World Heavyweight Champion? Also, while on the topic of Rule 3, I think WWE should use the continuous humiliation of Austin Theory by Brock Lesnar in 2022 as fuel for a feud. I would have a squash match first, then match 2 will go like 16 minutes with Theory kicking out of an F5, but ultimately passing out. I'm not going to read anymore because you're trying to turn Austin Theory into a babyface that's a totally different character. The idea that Austin Theory is somebody who's all heart that can fight through everything. I don't know if now's the time to do that for Austin Theory. Ultra Boy writes in, okay, a lot. So here's what's the haps with me. I now understand your pain. Okay, yeah. Also, do you know why the IW Internet Wrestling community hates Sami Zayn so much? I don't think that's true. I saw a YouTube post asking whether or not they thought Punk would win the Rumble, and I commented saying that if he didn't return, I think Sami Zayn would have won the Rumble, and then I got destroyed. Everyone started calling me a dumb kid and laughing at me for even suggesting that. Another time I saw a YouTube comment mentioning him as the World Heavyweight Champion that everyone started replying, talking about how much that would kill ratings. Well, no, I mean, I think there are people that don't like Sami Zayn, but I don't think the community as a whole doesn't like Sami Zayn, but yeah, I disagree with that totally. I think that Sami Zayn could easily be a world champion. Yeah, no, I don't. I think that there are always going to be people. Some people are wrong. That's what I would tell you, Ultra Boy. Some people are wrong. Josh writes in, I have a hunch the devil turns out to be MJF. He was the devil originally. Well, you were wrong. Mizzy, I want to say, writes in, this could be a controversial take, but I like Jimmy's character better than Jay's character. Of the Usos? That is controversial, but I love it. Because I think there is more depth to the Jimmy Uso character than people give credit for. So I like that you're bringing that up. I like that that's your take. I'd be interested in hearing you out in a conversation. That's the type of take I like to hear. However, you could spoil it. You could ruin your interesting take by giving me a dumb explanation, and then I wouldn't like it anymore. Poncho writes in from Ecuador, my man. Sup, Sam, 5th-time emailer here. I'm glad you're counting. I'm curious, who do you want versus who do you think will dethrone Roman? Gunther. Retire Cena? I don't know. It remains to be seen. It depends on when it happens. I don't know. Dethrone Gunther? Possibly a heel Cody. Jump ship from AEW to WWE next. Ricky Starks. Be the biggest surprise entrant at the Rumble. Okay, you want me to... Batista. I just wanted to say it. Thank you, buddy. Those are good questions. Tom Atkins. Hey, Sam. Happy holidays, New Year. I just wanted to get this out there before the World's End show. I think the Devil and the Devil Goons is reforming Pinnacle with Wardlow getting exposed as one of the goons. And with Shawn Spears announcing retirement, I just feel like it could be a throw off. Well, it wasn't. Plus, I noticed what seemed to be a mustache under one of the men's masks in the ring. Maybe a pair of top guys? No. Just doing my detective work. I love that you guys are writing in about the devil and it already happened, and I can be like, you're wrong. Because I know, and you wrote the emails before. Avery writes in, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm just mad that you were talking about who utilized all 365 days of 2023. It didn't occur to you to even mention the man who the first half of 2023 was opening every single show in a match for his title, Orange Cassidy. Come on, dude. Orange Cassidy did not own the year. Orange Cassidy had good matches in 2023. I'm a big Orange Cassidy fan. But, he didn't own the year. Liam writes in, I'm a first-time emailer. I've listened to your show since WrestleMania 38. My man. I've also been watching wrestling since I was 3. Love that. My first question is a big one. What is your dream AEW versus WWE versus TNA versus New Japan card? That's a whole podcast. Come on, bro. I wrote this last week, but you weren't doing emails. Well, I'm glad you wrote it again, but I'm not going over an entire pay-per-view card. Maybe one day. I did years ago, or maybe last year, whenever it was, I did a fantasy Forbidden Door card on the podcast, so you can go back and find it, but I'm not doing that in the email segment. Micah writes in, What's the hap, Sam? Do you still say that? Anyway, my question is, do you think Sasha Banks will return at the Royal Rumble? I don't, but I could be wrong. Shane writes in, with the possible pivot being made with Damage Control not kicking Bayley out, it made me think some other pivots made in the WWE past, like Vince's limo or GTV. Well, those aren't pivots. Those are just like, we're not going to do them. Like Vince's limo, things happen. GTV, I think they never had a finish in mind anyway and just lost interest. So that's different from Damage Control. But Damage Control we could still do at the Royal Rumble, as I pitched earlier. All right, last one. Josh writes in, Sam, I was prepared to disagree with your wrestler of the year because I was expecting you to pick Dominic Mysterio. You have made it known Dom is your favorite wrestler right now. However, I can't agree more with your pick of Jey Uso. That's why I can see Jey turning on Cody, preventing him from finishing the story. Everything counts. Cody brought him to Raw after the Bloodline breaks up. Jey face when Orton. Yep. I'm with you, Josh. Same reasons. Everything counts is why I have Cody turning on Jey. I appreciate all you guys. You guys have made 2023 one of my favorite years for this podcast. I can't wait to see what 2024 has for our entire world. Make sure you're subscribed on Apple if you're listening on Apple, Spotify if you're listening on Spotify. Leave ratings on both, a review on Apple. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, YouTube/Notsam Wrestling. And make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel because Wednesday, another podcast is coming out. And yeah, you guys are going to go nuts for it. It's an interview, and it's one of my favorites ever. So I'll leave that there. I'll tease it on my social media. I'll spoil it. I'll post a picture of it on Not Sam on Instagram and maybe Twitter, but mainly Instagram. And I will see you guys again soon here on Not Sam Wrestling.